Everyone, and welcome to another Liverpool Transfer Show on Forward Tour Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Fortunately, we've got some uh, transfer news regarding a potential Liverpool target, and it looks like this potential player might be heading somewhere else, which you can probably see in the title, and you can see it on the screen, as it appears that Antoine Semenyo looks like he could be City bound. So we'll speak about that news. Plus, we'll discuss potential alternatives. There's also been some news regarding some surprise links to certain strikers. And also, Arne Slot had his press conference today, earlier than planned. So we can discuss in terms of what he said, because there were some very interesting comments that I took from the press conference earlier today. So let's start and speak about the bomber that occurred earlier today, and that was in regards to Antoine Semenyo. So the current news is that Man City are progressing to complete the deal for Antoine Semenyo in the next few days, and City have been pushing the last 12 hours to accelerate the talks. Uh, Semenyo indicated that Man City was his favourite destination despite Manchester United trying hard and Chelsea and Spurs were out of the race. So my thoughts on that, there's not even a mention of Liverpool in that tweet. I believe that was from Fabrizio Romano. So slightly surprised. Um, and I find it a little bit ironic when I saw another tweet that mentioned that Liverpool were just monitoring the situation regarding Semenyo. And I thought typical LFC or Monitor FC, as we've been renowned for over the years. Um, I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't really gone aggressive with the Semenyo transfer for a number of reasons. One, he's a player that Richard Hughes will know very well, as he's a player that brought was brought by Richard Hughes to Bournemouth, and he has developed into a fantastic attacker over the years. Secondly, of course, the connection with Bournemouth is very helpful, but I feel like he's at an age where he's ready to make that step up. And I feel like with the clubs that he's been linked to, the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, Man City, Manchester United, I didn't see Man City being the ideal fit for him for a number of reasons. I think in terms of game time, unless Pep Guardiola rates him very highly and puts him into the first team ahead of anyone in the starting lineup, then that's a different situation. That's another discussion. But on current form, I think Doku's probably been one of the most outstanding wingers in the Premier League. So I'm not expecting him to displace him. And on the right hand side for Man City, they've got Foden, who's probably playing his best football so far in his career. So if you look at it in that way, he's not really going to get a lot of game time, is he? In terms of Manchester United, it's a club that I don't think have a structure in place to make those type of signings, and I don't think he fits the bill in terms of their setup. If Amorim wants to continue playing with wing backs, so many will not being a left wing back or a right wing back, and that's not something I assume that he would want to do. Liverpool, for me, made the most sense, and I'm not saying it just because I'm a Liverpool fan, of course. I think if you look at the current situation, we've got a striker injured in Isak. Salah is out for next 2-3 weeks at AFCON. You've got a playing Gakpo that hasn't really won over the fans, but in terms of the coach, of course, he's his favorite. But I feel like having a player like Semenyo gives you a different option. Um, a player that's more aggressive on the wings, and that's something I believe we lack in our squad. So I feel like he fits the profile, and as I mentioned, with the Isak injury, he could easily come in and play up top. So I feel like the tactical fit and the sort of the way we play football would have suited Semenyo's game. Arsenal, I thought would have been another team that would have been in for a shout due to his alliance, of course, being a boyhood Arsenal fan. But then again, I don't feel like they need a player like Semenyo because they are quite fully stacked in those attacking positions. They've got the likes of Eze, Trossard, Saka, Madueke. Martinelli. So they've got enough attackers in their squad. Chelsea, another debate. They've got a lot of attackers. They've got Gittins and he hardly gets any game time. Tottenham, yep, that could be one that he could have moved on to. But will that be the club for him at the best club for him at this stage of his career? Not really, if I'm being honest. I know, of course, they're in Europe and all that sort of stuff, but are they going to be there in the long term? And if there's already issues or uncertainty in terms of the caliber of their current coach, Thomas Frank, do they see him as the man, to take them forward? So I'm quite surprised that he's gone for Man City. I don't personally think it's the right move for him. And I'm not just saying that because I'm bitter that I really wanted him to join Liverpool. I just don't feel like he'll get the game time there. But look, let's see what happens in the coming days. It looks like it's definitely accelerated the last 24 hours. So, based on the reports we're getting from the likes of Fabrizio Romano and then Austin as well, I feel like Antoine Semenyo is pretty much City bound and will probably be unveiled as a City player next week at some point. So, yeah, bit of a shame, but no point on getting upset about it. I feel like Liverpool just need to move on and pursue other targets. Before we speak about those targets, let me go through some of the comments here. Um, Bo says, big up, Bo. I hope you're well. He said, and of course, Gakpo is back the minute he hears I should play. This man is horrendous. Yeah. Um, he said it was 50-50. So we'll see if what the situation, because he hasn't trained yet, but we'll wait in terms of in due course. There were two things in the press that confirmed Slot as a man manager and a man. One that he didn't fully know the age of Rio. I think 17. Yep. And he also said, I think that he has played the most minutes as a 17-year-old in the Premier League. So even that was a stat that he didn't know on top of his head. So yeah, just guessing there, isn't he? Um, and then number two, not talking with Harvey at all. Fourth, Ozzy. Well, that's poor. That's poor from the manager. And I mentioned this yesterday. I feel like maybe we're not understanding his role completely. And I'm not trying to back it, Slot here or anything like that. With Klopp, he was the Liverpool manager. So with that, you have more responsibility. Whereas, for example, in this scenario, if you've got players out on loan, you are supposed to be the one looking at their progress, keeping in touch with them, all that sort of stuff. As a first team coach, is that your sole responsibility? I can't say that with 100% conviction. Maybe this role is slightly different than the normal coaching or the normal manager role where that's not his role. That's actually Richard Hughes' job to liaise with the players out on loan. His job and his sole responsibility is to manage the first team. So maybe that is the case. But having said that, I still believe as a senior figure or as a leader of the current squad, there's no harm in him, texting Harvey just to see, how he's doing, all that sort of stuff. He might be doing that and he's just not revealing it to the public. But I do question his role now because it just seems like he's just fully focused on the team, and that might be his job spec, where he doesn't need to go above and beyond and liaise with players out on loan and all that sort of stuff. So maybe that's the responsibility of Richard Hughes. That's his job spec. That's for him to do the negotiations, but also manage the players and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, I'm not impressed in terms of what he brings to the table as a coach in terms of man management skills. But maybe we have to actually accept the fact that he is a first team coach. He is not a manager. That is two different roles. It sounds like it's the same thing, but it actually really isn't. Uh, so maybe we're looking at it in a different way. But that's just something I've been thinking about for the past day or so. But also after this presser, more and more people want to start. Now, Ozzy fully agree after this shit show in every presser. Who would it be then? Hughes, yeah. So if my theory is correct in terms of not him managing the club and just literally managing the first team, then it would be Richard Hughes as well. That's why he would have been appointed as a sporting director. But when other coaches have worked in that sort of structure, I've never heard of a manager or sorry, I've not heard of a coach being a bit too hands off. They still want to be part of, the future of the club, i.e., speaking to the young players and trying to um, embody them and try and get them into the first team. You still hear it in press conference, or you hear him speak about these young players in a very highly manner. Never get that from Slot, unfortunately. So it's a bit of a strange one. He's a disgrace. Can't Slot put his foot down and say, I need more responsibility to feel closer to the fans and players? No, of course he can't say that. He can't say that out loud to the public. Why would he say that? He signed a contract to be a first team coach, and maybe he doesn't want that responsibility. Just because we've seen other coaches do it in the past doesn't mean every man has the same kind of picture or same vision. He might be content with just being coach. He might not want to be part of the strategy and the structure of a football club, because remember, that is the format that is heavily used across Europe, especially in Holland. So he's accustomed to that. He's probably got no involvement in making sure that the hierarchy or the infrastructure of the youth academy is well in place. Just because of the way the modern day is, managers get sacked left, right, and center. You know, back in 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, if you were a manager, especially if you were a Liverpool manager, you would definitely be given at least a good 5 years to set your imprint going forward. Um, but at this stage, I'm not quite so sure in terms of his sole responsibilities. I'm just trying to read in between the lines, and just see, why is he so, harsh with his comments, or why is he a bit more standoffish when it comes to, speaking about young players and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe we'll get some further news over the months in terms of what his responsibilities are. Uh, but yeah, we'll have to just wait and see. Okay, let's move on to alternatives. If Semenyo is not the player that Liverpool pursue in this window, then who could Liverpool go for? The player that I'm sure you will know I rate very, very highly, and that is Bradley Barcola. And he has been linked with us quite a bit in recent months, especially in the summer. Very heavily linked with us once Diaz left the club. Unfortunately, they weren't willing to do business at the time. So my question is, should Liverpool push for this signing in January? We all know the history in terms of us signing the likes of Luis Diaz and Gakpo in January because there was interest in other clubs, and those two players were supposed to be someone signed, but they ended up having to push it back early and bring them into the club in January. So maybe there's a bit of a similar scenario here in regards to Barcola. Uh, I rate Barcola very, very high in terms of his profile. You know, predominantly plays on the left hand side, but very comfortable on the right hand side. Can play up top as well. And there seems to be this notion from people that believe that Barcola isn't a great finisher. I feel that's a bit of a lazy, a bit of a silly analysis. Um, you know, in terms of when I've watched him play, of course, there will be times where he's not going to score 5 goals from 5 chances. There's barely any striker even does that in this day and age, but he's still, for me, a clinical or a good finisher for a winger. So, for example, last season he had 57 appearances, 21 goals, 19 assists. So that's 40 GA day in 57 games. This season so far, 21 games, 5 goals, 3 assists, so 8 GA altogether. So, which is not too shabby for this sort of part of the season. I would be very pleased if probably that's been a bit more. I'd be ecstatic if we signed Barcola because he's a player I really, really like, and I feel like he could definitely give us something that we don't have in our squad, i.e., a player that can take on the fullback, that is quick when he's on the ball, uh, great dribbling skill, I believe he's good at shooting. I know some will disagree. I feel like he's a good finisher. Um, I'm not saying he's a complete finisher. It's an area he can certainly improve. But I feel like he has enough in the longer to make a huge impression in this team. And I'll go as far as to say that if he was in the squad, he'd probably be first choice left winger. So that's how much I rate him. Whether Liverpool make this move happen or not remains to be seen. I do believe he's one of our targets. But it sounds like more of a summer move rather than a move for January. But we'll have to wait and see in terms of what happens with that. So comment here from Bowl. He says, if that's the case, Liverpool might be the only club in the Premier League without a manager then, and that isn't a worry. No, you'll go through the Premier League. There will be a lot of managers that are labelled first team coach. Thomas Frank is a first team coach. It's the normal thing in this day and age. It's just that we've got accustomed to watching managers manage everything, like your Sir Alex Ferguson's, Rafa Benitez, your Jose Mourinho's, they would manage everything in that regards. Times have changed. The modern game is different now. You've got sporting directors taking big chunks of, that role where you take the pressure away from the coach. The sporting director can do the off-field stuff, i.e., the scouting, as in setting up the scouting network and all that sort of stuff, finding players to suit the style of play or the philosophy of the club, negotiating contracts, and all that sort of stuff. That is something that they're trying to take away from the coach, so they can solely focus on bringing success to the pitch. So we're not the only club. There's a number of clubs in England that do it, and there's definitely a huge volume of clubs that do it across Europe. It's just the way it goes in the modern game. That's been out there. So, yo, Ozzy, if we don't get Semenyo, who do you think we get? I would like to see the man on the screen right now in Barcola. Um, but if it's not Barcola, I don't think we'll sign an attacker. I don't see us making a panic signing or going down the short list if we haven't got a prime target. I think that they would rather just wait um, for that next target. I think Barcola is definitely one on the short list. Whether he's available is another question. Whether PSG want to sell him is another question. So it's not as straightforward as it could be. When you play video games, if the player wants to move, that's another debate as well. So I don't know in terms of who it would be. I was quite confident that it would be Semenyo that comes through the door. If it's Barcola, I would personally be very, very pleased about that. Whether it happens in January, I'm not sure. Maybe a chance in the summer, but very, very unclear to say right now. Hopefully, no one. How long is the contract of Edwards and Hughes? Aussie want Liverpool to have a manager again, like every other club. I don't know the lengths of their contracts to be fair. But that might not even be their decision. That might be what FSG want, and they are appointed for that vision there itself, because Richard Hughes has been appointed as a sporting director to take on that role, and maybe they learnt that Jurgen Klopp had too much power, and because of that, it affected their transfer strategy because you pretty much made Michael Edwards redundant in that role. His job was to find the best talent available, and if he isn't given the freedom or the license to scout players and provide those suggestions to the manager, then what's the point of him being at the club? Your club ended up, signing players that he wanted. So that's something where maybe FSG thought that's not the way to go. We need to be the ones that manage those sort of operations and let the coach be the coach. And that's just the way the game is right now. A lot of teams are playing that kind of route. Arsenal, Arteta, it's the same thing as well. So, you know, that is just the way it is, unfortunately. I don't think we're going to get a time where everyone will be the manager. It's just not how the modern day game works, unfortunately. But you don't see Pep Guardiola questioning the age of his own player or not talking to his own player. That's because he's not a new manager. He's not a new modern day manager. He's been a manager for a number of years, and he was actually a manager at his previous clubs. So because of that, he's learnt the trick and the trade of being a proper coach, a proper manager. But you're speaking about someone that is probably arguably one of the best ever. Um, so probably not the right comparison there. But Pep Guardiola has had fallouts with a lot of players. Ask Zlatan, ask Samuel Eto'o. Those are players he has had fallen outs with. So not every manager is perfect. Not every manager's philosophy or style of management suits certain profile players. Um, so it's just the way things are. So we just have to see, what Liverpool do going forward. Um, but it's not a surprising structure. Most clubs are, under that kind of format where you have a sporting director and they do all the background work, and the coaches make sure they train them properly and get them playing to their ability to help win trophies and win games. That says, when do you think Cody could be back? Slot confirmed today that he's 50-50, so he could have some involvement in the Wolves game. I don't know if he'll start, but I do expect him to be on the bench if he's regarded as 50-50. Both it does say when Liverpool signed Slot that he's the new manager of the club. No, he's the first team coach. You can show me a link if you've got one. I definitely remember it being regarded as a coach because there was a lot of debates amongst us content creators as to why that's his job title. So I know for a fact that he wasn't labeled as a Liverpool manager. Uh, but Liverpool Football Club should have a manager that can take control of everything, in my opinion, not just coaching, especially if you can't do either. As I just mentioned, in terms of Jurgen Klopp, he had too much power in FSG's eyes, so that's why they don't want to go that same kind of route going forward. And quite frankly, would you trust Arne Slot with all that power? I wouldn't. So I'd rather he just do what he's doing right now for the short term, and then we get someone in that can take up on that role on a better scale, in my opinion. Because if he had full power, bloody hell, we'd probably sign every Dutch player that you can think of, and that's not me discriminating Dutch players because I feel like Dutch players are technically gifted. The players over the years are so talented, but it will be players that we feel like are not to Premier League level. If you were signing players from the Eredivisie, then we wouldn't be too happy, right? So it, it's it's one of those ones where you feel like if you're giving the coach the full power, maybe we can see the vision a bit clearer. But even we had managers over the years, I think the players that they signed, you would assume that there was theirs, but there's always a question mark in regards to like Jurgen Klopp, for example, in the early days where Michael Edwards was there. Some would not even know if that was an Edwards signing or if it was a Klopp signing. The whole thing about Klopp wanting Julian Brandt and we end up signing Mohamed Salah from Edwards' suggestion. It's just how it works. So it's a tricky one because I feel like yes, we are accustomed to seeing managers have full power in the 90s and the noughties and all that sort of stuff, but maybe it's too much of a burden for these individuals, too much responsibility that they can't manage and they just want to focus on football and football alone. So it could be the case. Bo says, not a dig on you, of course, Ozzy. This is all on a slot. I'm just so angry. No, I'm not. Hopefully, you haven't taken my sort of tone as offense. I haven't taken any offense to what you've said, Bo. Um, it's just that when he was appointed, because I've never heard Liverpool call their manager a Liverpool first team coach like that. That job title was quite new, from my sort of recent recollection. So, um, yeah, it's funny because I don't know if we'll ever get told the full picture in terms of how the club operates, but I just have a feeling that this guy is just literally a first team coach and literally says it on the tin. And what I will say is I feel like even if you are labeled as a first team coach, you still do what a manager would normally do from years back, in i.e., um, make sure your man management skills are, in fine tune, because you have to manage multiple people, and it's not just about training and coaching and doing certain drills. You have to manage people. If you don't have that kind of skill set, you can't be a high level coach in this day and age, in my opinion. And that's something I think he's quite weak at. I don't think he has great man management skills. From a tactical point of view, I've seen lapses in the way he's set teams up this season. From when we've struggled against low block teams and teams that play the long ball. For me, that's bread and butter of English football. So if you can't handle that, why are you here? So, there's the little things here and there that I just feel like maybe he's punching above his weight. I don't feel like he is of adequate quality to take this club forward. So I hear you in terms of your frustration, and we'll probably get frustrated further during the show, because I'm going to read out some of the comments that he made in the press conference today. But for now, we will just talk transfers, and we'll move on to the next one. So this one was a bit of a surprise that I saw earlier on today, and that was in regards to former United attacker. Of course, not just former United. He played for the likes of PSV, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Lyon, and that is Memphis Depay. Now, apparently, we've been linked with a move for the Dutch striker, and apparently he is open to a short-term deal, as he has good relations with many Liverpool players. Now, my thoughts on Memphis Depay. I'll be honest with you, I do like him. I rated him as a player. I actually remember us being very close to signing him before he made that United move. And I was a little bit disappointed that he didn't come to the club. I feel like he was very, very talented. However, just because I liked the player doesn't mean I want the player to come to my club. At this stage of his career, I believe he's around 31, 32 years old. He's not the same type of player that he was in previous years. And I don't feel like he will have much impact in the Premier League at this current stage. So for me, I don't think this is a smart move at all. Because if you look at his profile, in his younger days, he's more of a left winger. But as his game evolved, and as he got older, he predominantly played as a false nine or a striker in that more central role. I know Isak's out, but he's not out for that long. So there's no point of signing a player for a 2-month period. And also, I wouldn't trust Memphis Depay on the left wing. I don't think he has that same, dynamic speed that he used to have in his previous years. And people highlights Mohamed Salah's lack of pace, which I don't think is. I think he's still quick. He's just not as quick as he used to be. But Salah's quicker than Memphis Depay. So for me, that correlation does not work at all. So no, I don't think this would be the right decision for us to go and sign Memphis Depay. Even if for short term, I don't think it's the right move for Liverpool. I'm just gonna go and there's a few more comments there. Dad said, "You see Salah's goal last night, Ozzy?" Yes, I did. I mentioned it in my show last night as well. Yeah, it was a great moment for the Egyptian king, scoring the match win on the 91st minute. So yeah, great moment for him. Puts Egypt in a great position. First win of the competition, and they play against South Africa on Boxing Day as well. So yeah, so he's doing really well for his nation. And I really hope he wins the AFCON, because, quite frankly, I want him to rub it on Jamie Carragher's face. Pause. uh, Boss says, how do you think the players like Elliot feel from going from a manager who liked him and talks to him nearly every day to a manager who hates him, don't play him, and also plays in the team that won't play? Yeah, it's not a nice feeling, of course, 100%. Um, but that is just the way it goes, unfortunately. Even just speaking as an average person, when you've got a manager at your workplace, when you change managers, you have to expect a different type of leadership skills from that person. They're not always going to be the same as the previous person. So that's just how it goes in life, unfortunately. And I think with Elliot, personally, I think he made the wrong move. I don't think a move to Villa made the right sense. And I know Liverpool, oh sorry, Aston Villa are flying right now. They've won, is it 10 games on the bounce? So they're in phenomenal form right now, but he hasn't been a part of it. So that's the concern, where he should have looked out for himself in terms of, what team is going to help me develop further as a player and help me excel, but also give me opportunities to play for the national team, of course, with the World Cup coming up in recent months. Um, I think he should have gone over to Bundesliga and signed for Red Bull Leipzig. They were looking for a Xavi Simon's replacement, and I think he would have been the perfect profile for them. It's a slower league in comparison to the Premier League, but still plenty of technical players, and I feel like he could have really made a name for himself there. But unfortunately, it's not worked out for him. And it looks like he'll be returning to Liverpool, but at what capacity, we're not quite sure at this stage. Uh, Ozan says the main man, Aussie lad. Big up, Ozan. I hope you're doing well. Ozan says, Aussie thoughts on rumours that Harvey's going back on loan to a championship side for the rest of the season. I haven't seen that rumour. Is there a name of the championship side? You've just said it's Ipswich Town. I'm not gonna lie, that feels a bit harsh because I feel like he's too good for the championship, respectively. Um, yeah, I would this is me. This is not honest. I would personally just let him, stay at the club for the rest of the season and then go back and look at the situation and then maybe sell him on if we don't feel like he's good enough to stake a claim in the squad. Uh, out loan to a championship side feels a little bit disrespectful to Harvey Elliott. But that's just my opinion. Some people might completely disagree with that. Um, yeah, I don't know if that's fair on him. Just because the move hasn't worked out doesn't mean he's a poor player. He's just moved at the wrong club and at the wrong time, in my opinion. So if that's the case, and that's not me being disrespectful to Ipswich Town, by the way, I just feel like he should be playing Premier League football. That's the kind of caliber I see Harvey Elliott playing. So I feel like that would be a bit of a shame if that was to occur. But also, it feels like a change from Sir Alex to Moyes. This one, no connection with him or the players. The only same thing is the stupid board. Yeah, but then the board ended up changing for them as well, and that's why they are pretty much all over the place since then. So yeah, that ended up changing for them as well. Bo says he can't do that. Ozan, I think only Saudi or MLS. You can't play for three different clubs in Europe in the same season. Okay, but did he play for Liverpool in terms of this season? I don't think he made an appearance for us, so I might be wrong actually. Let's quickly check that. He didn't play in the Premier League fixtures, did he? Let's have a look. If he did make a cameo for us, then you're right, Bo, and it could be where he's not able to do that. So no, he didn't play for Liverpool this season. So he's only made appearances for Aston Villa, and then because of that, he's able to move to another team in that scenario. So yeah, so it will be only his second team, I think, if he was to move. Ed Sheeran apparently wants his services, Aussie. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he does. To be fair, the is, is he? It's own the club, does he? I've heard that he owns part of the club. Um, or I know he's definitely an ambassador, and he has been over the years. Um, but yeah, he'll definitely. No, he doesn't own. He's a stakeholder though. So yeah, he'll definitely want something from that. He came on versus Newcastle. Oh, did he play? Okay. Then God knows what's going to happen with him. I don't know. I'm not sure what the rules are now because they always change these sort of rules. Maybe because there's not enough games, they might give him a bit of leeway and let him move. Um, and because it was a loan move, they might allow him um to make a transfer elsewhere. I don't know. Uh, it could simply be where Villa have no choice; they have to keep him. Uh, but the reason why Villa are trying to cut their ties with Harvey is because one, they maybe realize they've signed the wrong player and he's not the right fit for the team. But two, they signed an agreement that they have an obligation to buy him at the end of the season for £35 million, and they don't want to fulfill that obligation. So that's why they're trying to get out of it, um, which won't help Liverpool because Liverpool are like, look, we had an agreement with you that this is your player. It probably should have been permanent anyway, but we gave you the chance to have him on loan on paper, but you were always expected to sign him at the end of the season. Uh, so it's a more of an Aston Villa problem than a Liverpool problem, if I'm being honest, because we thought we did our part. We got the move for the player at the club that he wanted to go to, and there it is. So yeah, this is an Aston Villa problem more than anything else. Because at the end of the day, if he stays at Aston Villa, we get 35 million at the end of the season. So that's how I'm looking at it. But we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll get some further news in the coming days. Honestly, there's probably some loophole we don't know about. Possibly there could be some sort of loophole. If it's just a cameo appearance for Liverpool and then he got moved on to Villa, it might be something that allows him to make a move to a third club. But who knows at this stage, to be fair. That's it. No Domi suspended Aussie. Who would he start on the right wing on Friday? I know he's suspended. But who would he start? Um, It's going to depend on Bradley being fit because he's 50-50 according to Slot. He didn't train today, but he's expected to train, I think, on Friday would be the day that they start training, I think. Or maybe tomorrow they'll train as well. Um, Frimpong should be available. Gomez is out. I thought he might have been fit, but he's not available for this game. Endo is out. Gakpo could come in. Um, I the obvious is Chiesa. Play Chiesa there for God's sake. But I'm sorry, I'm trying to be like Arne Slot right now and not pick Chiesa because he clearly doesn't value him, doesn't see him as a physical option in his squad. So I'd probably say Frimpong plays on the right, to be honest with you. And then it's either it's either Bradley if he's fit, or Curtis Jones plays there and is a makeshift right back just for that game. And then you've got the likes of Gravenberg, McAllister, double pivot, and then you've got Verts in your 10 role, and then maybe a return for Cody Cappo on the left. Um, so yeah, there's a few options, but let's see. Slot will tell us one thing and do the complete opposite. So yeah. As I said, my problem with Slot is that when he don't rate a player, that there's virtually no way back for that player. I'll slightly disagree with that one, Ozen, because that's how he treated Endo last season. But Endo seemed to have won him over, and he said that publicly as well. That due to his hard work and determination in training, he had no choice but to reward him with game time. Although they weren't starts, but he was heavily involved in our second part of the season last season. Um, so you're right, but of course that would be one where someone has actually um, changed his mind to some level. Um, but yeah, he seems quite cold if he doesn't like someone. He just literally just freezes them out of the picture. So yeah, a bit of a shame. Well, please do not be like Slot. No, no, no. I was just speaking about in that scenario. God forbid. Yeah, yeah. I do not want to be like Slot. To be fair, that's it. I was thinking, could Verts play on the right? He could. Verts did play on the right against Frankfurt, but we played a 4-4-2 formation with no Isak. I don't see us playing with a two-man strike force. The reason a two-man strike force was even a conversation was because we had two good strikers and we had to fit them in somehow. By one out of there, um, you can kind of go back to your primary formation, which is 4-2-3-1/4-3-3, however he wants to label it. So I don't think he'll play with two strikers. But Verts could be an option on the right. I don't like it as an option, but it's not something that can be completely ruled out. If I'm being honest, as I said, man, don't understand form and player management. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Uh, Both says Slot has made me realize how much a manager means for me. If I don't like a manager, I nearly lose all interest in the game, and that makes me sad. That's because you're watching games right now and you're not feeling a connection. And I think a lot of us Liverpool fans will agree to that. I'm watching games, I'm bored, I'm not entertained. Uh, I feel like watching paint dry could be more entertaining than what we're witnessing these recent weeks. It's not what we're accustomed to. I'm not trying to sound like a sport fan that we've had the best football in the last 8, 9, 10 years. We have under Jurgen Klopp. We played phenomenal, enjoyable football, but this is the polar opposite, and it just doesn't feel right in terms of the way the team is playing. And it's not even just that; it's the players we have in the team as well. We have such great talent that they're not able to actually showcase their full capabilities because of these limited tactics, in my opinion. And that's what's frustrating as a fan. Ola says, yeah, but how many minutes has Matara played this season? Yes. So you're right on that one, Ozan. I'm more referencing last season. This season, no. He's barely given Endo any minutes. I feel like he played a game quite recently, but that was the first game in like 2, 3 months. So no, in terms of this season, no one's won him over in any shape or form. To be fair, Bo says Slot lost interest in Rio after his score versus Newcastle because that his Gakpo's position. Well, that's just silly, isn't it? That's not how it should be. And I'm not saying that Rio should have been the starter after like fantastic moment where he got the match winner, but utilize him a bit more. Uh, so for me, yeah, I just feel like he's not been given the opportunity that he should do. And just because he's 17 years of age, don't discount him because of his age. If he's amongst the first team squad, he's good enough to be a part of the first team and good enough to either start or come off the bench, in my opinion. So I think he's being mismanaged. But let's see. Maybe he gets more of an opportunity to get some more game time due to the lack of options that we have. Or maybe he's still frozen and he just rots on the bench, which is not great for a young player coming through the ranks. As I said, Bo, it sounds to me like Ozzy's warming up to Slot. Hell no. I was meant to swing. I'm like, hell no. Um, both of you feel it as well. Come on, guys, never. Ozzy's 1 win away from being slotted. La 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 la. You guys know. For me, I always try and be as neutral as possible. I will always voice my true opinions, but I have to look at it from all angles. Why is this person acting this way, and why is this coach behaving this way? But look, I voiced my frustration about this coach, and I stick by it. Uh, I would have liked him to have been sacked a long time ago. I still can't believe we're approaching 23rd of December, and he's still Liverpool coach. I thought he'd have been sacked at least in November. I really do. Um, but as the games go on and we start picking up results, not performances, because the performances have been poor in my opinion. But we are picking up results. We're touching distance of getting into the top four, but also getting closer to the leaders. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping we can turn it around a little bit. I hope that we can sign a couple of players. I know it sounds like Ozzy just wants players. I just feel like we're in such a tricky situation where we're over relying on so many players in our squad to perform that if you have suffered one or two injuries in the wrong positions, we are screwed. And for me to think about Liverpool not qualifying for Champions League hasn't even come into my my space right now. So for me, yeah, that's something that we can't really go with this season. We can't not qualify for Champions League football. That would be detrimental to our success and our progress as a club, especially after spending 450 million. Yeah, we'll never see that money ever again. Uh, Boss today is no being neutral when starting the biggest player to the world population ever. I hear you, but there's a lot of fans that still starting. I don't know if you guys, speak to a lot of fans in terms of your own friend circles or in terms of like online. Like, I'm still getting like, feels like it can be 50-50 at times. So, on Football Talk podcast, I feel like the arrow is more towards slot out, but on other channels, on social media, they still have faith in the coach, which is, fair. Everyone's, entitled to their opinions, but I'm not sure why that is, to be fair. Uh, That's it. Will there be an FC 20 show, FC 26 show coming up, Ozzy? I don't want to promise. I will try and do something soon. I just don't know when. So I don't want to promise that, yeah, guys, I'm going to do it this week and then not turn up and do anything. So it's definitely on my to-do list to do something at some point. But I just can't confirm right now. Once I know that I've got plenty of time to set up and do an FC 26 show, I will definitely announce it on the shows. Ozan says fifth or lower would be an absolute embarrassment. Ozzy, of course it would be. 100% it would be. From being Premier League champions to spending, for me, and I still stand by it, spending money on good players in the summer and then falling to fifth. No, sacked straight away, in my opinion. But I feel like he should have been sacked a long time ago, and FSG still haven't done that. Almost a billion spent to get worse. He hasn't spent a billion. He spent how much has he spent? He spent about 450, isn't it? Half a billion. But yeah, I get what you mean. So spent a lot of money basically, and to get worse, that doesn't even make logical sense. But that's where we are right now. Three or lower for me. I'll be honest with you, bro. I take third position to be fair, only because of how poor we've been in the last 2-3 months. I wouldn't be happy or overjoyed by that, but I'll take it right now, just because I know it secures our future, and then I hope that we do the right thing and get a new coach in next summer. Can we get Ubu out? Right now, no, we can't. Unless someone bids us 15 millions and they want to take him right away. Um, But no, I don't think we would sell him. Even if he doesn't sign a new contract, which I've said it quite a few times with you guys, I don't think he will. I think he will leave on a free and move on to Real Madrid. And if that's the case, then it is what it is, unfortunately. But I don't think we'll cash in on him, just because we are already low in numbers right now. Well, so you see, if we're not training today, I haven't seen the pictures. To be fair, I think there's a number of players that weren't available, so. I'm not sure for whatever reason. Hopefully he is fit, because if he's not, oh my god, then it's gonna have to be Gravenberch as a centre back alongside Van Dijk, or Robertson alongside Van Dijk. Which yeah, I don't want to think about that, to be fair. Honestly, Ozzy, are you surrounded by Palace fans or more Arsenal fans? Um, as in growing up and like my circle of friends, it was actually Man United fans. um, just because in terms of my age, and Man United be the more successful team in the 90s and noughties. I was heavily around Arsenal and United fans. But if I had to choose one club, it would be Man United fans. Palace fans, not as much. Um, I'm thinking what other clubs? Chelsea a little bit, but predominantly Arsenal and United fans. Uh, I always feel like in school or any sort of environments, if I saw a Liverpool fan or I knew someone was a Liverpool fan, that's me thanking God that someone's on the same page as me, because it wasn't very common growing up. And I would have to have these football debates and football battles on my own against these United and Arsenal fans who were very much shameless during those times. Uh, so it wasn't easy, but had to stand up for my team and do what had to be done at the time. Boss says Jack Lusby said he was with the medical staff and not trained today. Okay, okay. Obviously, or Charlton and Kidon fans, no. So I feel like especially when you've like grown up with people of your age, you know, they will support the team that is winning or be referred to as glory hunters, but it is what it is, isn't it? So if teams are winning, then you normally sway towards supporting them. Like I'm sure kids in primary school are probably supporting like Man City and those sort of teams where we feel like why are you even supporting them? But because they're successful. So no, not really Charlton fans. Um I knew a few Charlton fans, definitely, being from South London, but not a lot. MK Don fans, no, not many MK Don fans. Because originally the club was Wimbledon, and of course they switched it over to MK Dons. But no, not many. Mainly Arsenal and United. Those would be the two teams that most of my friends and people I knew supported growing up. But Lucky and Virgil against Wolves, then I would like that better, to be fair. I hear you, but I don't want to put pressure on Lucky um, to play in the first team, but we might not have much of a choice if we don't have that many centre backs available, uh, and the likes of Endo not being available either. So yeah, we're gonna have to think of a solution. Honestly, glory hunting, and yeah, it is like I'll be honest with you guys. So I don't know if I've even mentioned this on my show. So the reason why I support Liverpool is because of my cousins. So my cousins are 10 years older than me. So they supported Liverpool when they were the most successful team. So I just went, based on like who my family supported, I guess. Um, but I didn't support Liverpool when they were in the glory days. I supported them from the mid 90s, and that's when it was a bit of a downward spiral. So I've gone through the rough times being a Liverpool fan. I've also enjoyed the highs as well. So, you know, my cousins may have been labeled as glory hunters, but as a fan of Liverpool, I've not been a glory hunter. I've supported them based on family links and yeah, going through the highs and the lows. So yeah, it's not been easy being a Liverpool fan, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Okay, so let's move on and speak about another player that we've been linked with. Bit of a surprising link, I'm not gonna lie. And that is another Alexander, but this guy is called Alexander Sorloth, the Danish striker, considered on loan after a strong start for Atletico this season. So my thoughts on this player being linked, for me, an absolute no. Um, I know we've lost the striker, but he's only out for 2 months, so we don't need to panic buy and just buy any random centre forward. He's not random, of course. He is well known to an extent. He played for Crystal Palace, didn't do well there, to be fair. Has gone over to other clubs and has scored plenty of goals, and I feel like he's done decent there as well. But no, not the profile for me. He's too slow. He's just a big man up top, and I don't think we need that type of striker in our team. We need someone that's mobile, more agile, someone able to attack the channels in transition. So for me, not the profile at all. And this article said that he's been in strong form. He's only scored 5 goals in 22 games. So I don't really regard that as strong form. So for me, an absolute no in regards to Alexander Sorloth being a potential target for Liverpool in January or the foreseeable future. But we have been linked with another striker in Igor Thiago. Now, the story is that Liverpool are tracking the Brentford forward because his style matches Arne Slot's system. Brentford intends to keep the player during the winter window, but the club would only consider a sale if they receive an exceptional transfer offer. So, my thoughts on that, in terms of him fitting or matching Arne Slot's system, I'm not quite so sure in regards to that. Yes, he's a prolific striker. You know, he's got 17 appearances, he's got 11 goals, no assists to his name, so he's clearly not passing to anyone. He's just been awarded the Premier League November Player of the Month. So a player that has been in, you know, in great vein of form in recent weeks. Um, but no, I personally don't think we need to sign a striker. If we are to sign a player in the window, it has to be an attacker that can play on the wings, but can also play up top if needed. So I'm basically looking for a wide forward. That's the profile I think the club should be looking at. Uh, Igor Thiago is a striker that has been prolific this season, but I'm not going to sign a player that's been in a purple patch, quite frankly. And Brentford won a huge amount. I'm talking like 50, 60, that kind of £1 million. Nah, for me, we don't need to spend that kind of money at all. So, no, not a viable option for me. Um, Bolton and it can be lower. The slot, to be honest. Ozzy says, Ozzy, no jokes. Zimbabwe has a right back called God knows Murira in AFCON. Man's first name is God. God knows. Nah, that can't be right. I'm gonna have to Google. Like, give me a second. Muriba. And he played for Zimbabwe. He said, let's have a look. Nah, are you sure? Look, how do you spell his name? Oh, I spelled his name wrong. Murira. Murira. Zimbabwe. Why am I not getting this player coming up Zimbabwe? Unless you're pulling my leg. Oh no, you're right. His name is God knows. How old is he? He's 32. Okay. He does not look 32. No offense. Um, I'm just trying to see if there's any clubs that he played for that are well known. He plays for a team called Scotland, of course not the country, as in it's a team in Zimbabwe Premier League. Yeah, that is interesting. God knows, you know, that is hilarious. That is hilarious. So you know it's like shit. God knows. God knows indeed. Uh okay, let's move on to the next rumor. This one does not put a smile on my face, and this is Bergvall. Now, apparently, the rumor is that Liverpool are trying to bid or consider a bid of £52 million to sign Tottenham midfielder Lucas Bergvall in January, and the fee that is apparently on the table is unusual for Liverpool because they don't normally spend that kind of money on a 19-year-old. And according to this source, it reflects the status of Lucas Bergvall in terms of what he's achieved at Spurs. Uh, they want to get ahead of major European clubs who apparently have been starting to monitor Lucas Bergvall's progress. So my thoughts on this, no, not for me at all. I'm not saying he's a terrible player. I think he's a decent player, just not Liverpool quality at all, in my opinion. So no, for me, this is a definite no. £52 million. Please save that money and spend it somewhere else. Spend it on a Adam Wharton or who else? And an Elliot Anderson. You know those type of players. You know, save that money to sign that kind of caliber player, not Bergwell. So for me, an absolute no. Not even an option. Okay, now there has been some news regarding Luis Enrique. Now, PSG are seriously considering offering Luis Enrique a deal described as a lifetime contract. This would be the first ever agreement of its kind handed to anyone in football history, and Enrique will effectively be able to solely choose when and if he wanted to ever leave the club. So right now he has a year. Well, actually, I don't think it's a year. It's 6 months remaining in his current deal. So my thoughts on that. That's a crazy contract to get a lifetime contract. You know, if you're buying a mobile phone, for example, you're he's basically on a rolling contract. and he can just decide when to cut his time whenever he feels like it. That's crazy. Um, I don't know what he would make of that. They've framed that as lifetime. I just see it as a rolling contract. So I don't know if that's a compliment or it's just that they don't have faith in him as such. Of course, they clearly do because it's Luis Enrique and he's brought the unthinkable where he brought the Champions League to Paris last season. Um, that kind of shows me that look, they're probably willing to give him whatever salary he wants, and it's a salary on his terms. So if he wants to leave, he can have that discussion with them anytime. So if he's, in a good position with the club, which I'm sure he is, then he won't want to move anytime soon. So maybe, unfortunately, we're gonna have to cross out Luis Enrique as an option on the manager slash coach shortlist for next summer. Even though I always thought it was a bit unrealistic, but you gotta live in hope sometimes, based on him only having 6 months remaining. So you can't completely rule it out, but it looks very, very unlikely that he would be candidate for the Liverpool job in the near future. That says no, we don't need Bergvall. Yeah, we don't. We don't need him. I don't want him. To be fair, you are. But also, when a club goes through some injuries, why do they start signing players? Every club has academy, give them a chance. Lucky if Ibu injured, Nyoni if Sobo's out, Rio if Gakpo is out, and etc. The players would give absolute everything, and what consensus it has to agree to it. Yeah. Oh, has he agreed? That's in reference to Semenyo, I'm assuming. We've not got official confirmation, but I think. Are you referring to Enrique or Semenyo? Just drop a comment because I don't want to say something. And I'm thinking something completely off topic here. So just let me know what you're referring to, because we've spoken about quite a few topics here. Enrique, thank you for confirming. So no, so this is something that's been proposed to him, um, and we don't know if he's going to agree to it or not. So it's an interesting one because it's the first time in football that someone has been given a lifetime contract where they decide what they want to do. Um, I have a feeling he won't accept it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm sure if he does agree, that the terms will be very, very good for him. So let's see what he ends up doing. Um, but in terms of Bo's comment there, I hear you, and it just depends on the coach. It really does because I think if Jurgen Klopp was around, I think he would give the youngsters an opportunity, but only if he feels like they were ready. And that's something we can definitely vouch for. If we needed someone on a one-off term or one-off basis, then he would play that player. But then he would also tell that player, look, do what you want to do in terms of perform. Like, and look, if you perform badly, I will take the bullet for you. You've got nothing to worry about. Just perform to your ability, enjoy yourself, and then just take it from there. And if you have a bad game or if you have a bad result, I will take the bullet and I will make sure that I take sole responsibility because and just let the people know you weren't ready. But he of course he wouldn't say that to the players directly in that way, but he'll just let them know, look, I'll take sole responsibility for whatever happens on the pitch. Um, so maybe Slot just doesn't believe those players are ready. Or Richard Hughes doesn't believe those players are ready. Whoever makes that decision, I don't actually know for sure. Um, but yeah, I hear you. In terms of Lucky, I don't think Lucky is ready for the first team personally. Neoni, I think he can play a few games here and there. So I think he is more than ready than Lucky, for example. I think Rio is ready to come in and play games here and there. I don't think they are ready to play consecutive games, like 5 games in a row. I don't think they're quite ready for that. But they are players of huge talent, huge ability, and I feel like they can definitely do a job here and there in the Premier League. Um, so yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's just that I don't think Slot has the faith to do that. Um, Mo says just me that think Liverpool should give Slot a lifetime contract. Bo, change your tune, aren't you? I know you're being sarcastic there. But hell no. um, Honestly, Carabao Cup title at Wembley will never be forgotten. Bobby Clark, Dan McConnell, that was beautiful. That final felt so special because those young players came on and gave it their all. But those players, I'll be honest with you, were on the cusp of joining the first team because they were doing so well in the reserves that they were only bound. It was only a matter of time that they were going to be involved in the first team. But then again, there are players that Slot has, like a Rio and a Trenioni, who are in the same caliber, in my opinion, but he hasn't given them a chance. So it really does depend on the coach. Into the does he have faith in the youngsters? Look at Jose Mourinho, fantastic coach, has won so many accolades in the game. But I would say he was a coach that didn't have faith in the youngsters. He was an actual coach where his responsibility was to bring results and coach the first team squad. That was his role. He wouldn't really interfere with youth development or any outside projects. So there are coaches that just want to focus on one thing, and that is to be successful on the pitch with the first team. Players coming through, he'll be like, I'll let the youth coaches, deal with that, or the sporting director deal with that. So I think that it just depends on the coach in terms of their vision, their philosophy. Do they have the faith to blood youngsters into the first teams sooner than what some managers would do? So it just depends on the profile of the coach, in my opinion. Um, Volkan 73 says, any Barcola rumors, Jerry Jacko and Schlotterbeck. So all three names have been linked to Liverpool in the last couple of weeks. Barcola is being regarded as an alternative to Semenyo, but I've not heard a huge reliable source today to have presented that. Jeremy Jacquet, we were linked with him last week, but he's been, you know, scouted by a lot of clubs. So he's definitely a player that I hope we can look into because I do think he's a very talented player. Schlotterbeck, we've been linked with him. He would be one of my. I've always said Bastoni is my dream signing, but it's a dream because I don't think it's a reality for a number of reasons. But I think Schlotterbeck should be our number one target as a centre back signing for me. I know everyone wants Mark Gay, but I don't know. Mark Gay, I just don't know where we stand with him. I feel like Schlotterbeck would be a fantastic signing. And if we end up getting Mark Gay on a free later this year, then them two as a pairing would be formidable. So for me, Schlotterbeck has to be someone that we go for. Mid-20s, but still very experienced for a player of that age. uh, Left-footed, so it gives us a different dimension in our defense. Big, strong, dominant in the air, great on the ball, comfortable playing in the back four, can even play left back if need be. I think he'd be a perfect signing for us. I would love it for it to be Bastoni. I just don't think that's a realistic target. Um, so dream scenario would be that, but realistic one for me would be Schlotterbeck. So I really hope that Liverpool are in for him because he would be a great addition to our squad. And even if we sign him with Van Dijk still at the club, I still feel like they can both play together. Even though Van Dijk likes to play on the left side of a centre back, in his younger career he did play right sided, so it's not a role that he's unfamiliar with. And I think they could add the right balance. Or who knows? We can even switch to a back three and have Schlotterbeck on the left, Van Dijk in the middle, and Konate on the right hand side as well. So he would give us fantastic option and adaptability as well during games or one-off games as well, playing a back three or back four. He'd be a great signing for us. So yeah, that's the one that I really want us to get uh, in January. That's me being a bit cheeky there, but definitely in the summer. Bosnia Slot ruined all of them. Yeah, sometimes it takes years to build something very special, especially when it comes to football, and it can go real tickle finger. Just ask United fans; they'll tell you. Abdul, big up Abdul. He says, "Do you think we went correctly in the summer signings and slot being tested this season?" I stand by it. I do think the signings were good signings. It's just that it hasn't. the players haven't gelled as quickly as expected. I think Slot has changed his tactics based on how he performed last year. So because of that, everyone is learning a new way of playing, and because of that, we look very disjointed as a team. So there's a combination of reasons why we haven't performed so good this season. Um, but I still believe the signings we made were good signings. I still stand by that. I'm not going to say they were terrible signings because we haven't been great, but I do think they were good signings a few months ago. Abdul says Slot isn't the right man for the job. I definitely agree. I don't think he is the right man for the job, and I hope we. I would love for to. It's a bit rude to say that out loud, but I would have liked to have replaced Slot after that losing streak that we went through. But if he's survived that, I think he'll survive until the end of the season, and I think end of the season then we'll have a review and then see if he's the man for us. I don't think he is. I think we will definitely appoint another manager next summer. In terms of who that is, not too sure to be fair. Abdul says our approach this season was all wrong. I think his approach was all wrong in terms of from a tactical standpoint. Um, not playing with a proper number six. And when I say that, I mean Gravenberch hasn't played as a number six. He's been playing as a free rolling midfielder. So because of that, you've got a midfield that isn't focused defensively. They are more about more possession and more on the attacking side of the game. And unfortunately, that has hampered us as a collective. So tactics are the reason why it hasn't worked well. But look, we're not out of it. We can still salvage this season. We can still challenge. Uh, for honest, I don't know if we'll win the title or if we'll win the Champions League, but I just want us to, have a fighting chance of being around there, if I'm being honest. Boss says, why do you think managers don't like the academy? That's where every fan and club want. Uh, I don't think every manager doesn't like the academy. I think due to the way the modern game is now, there is a lot of pressure for these managers to win trophies. And there's only so many trophies you can win. So especially when you're the big boys, the big teams in the league, you are being given huge amount of money to spend big and bring in the best quality players all over the world. And if you're not delivering trophies, you're sacked. That's just the way the game is now. And because of that, managers don't feel like they have the luxury to embed a young player or a project player and give them the time to nurture them and help fulfill their potential. They kind of have to do a fast track and get results and get trophies right away. Otherwise, they're out of a job. So that's just the way it has gone, unfortunately. It's not the right way because I feel like with that aspect of the game, you're wanting everything to happen very quickly, and you're not really taking your time to develop certain players, and that's why a lot of these young players they're going out on loan, or especially players in England. You're seeing a lot of them moving over to Germany or Denmark or Sweden. Like they're going to different leagues all over the continent to play first team football because they're not getting chances here, or they're not given the platform to actually learn and develop. In those countries, the youth football is completely different. Over here, it's a bit more highly pressured. Liverpool get linked with like 13, 14, 15 year olds that are expected to be the next big thing. So a kid of that age is feeling that pressure that, oh my God, Liverpool are linked with me. You start thinking completely different. So football has changed a lot since like 10, 15, 20 years ago. And because of that, there's more of an emphasis to win right now rather than play the slow game and develop and produce the best team uh over a course of years. It's not how it works, unfortunately. Only some managers get that kind of time. Not everyone does in this day and age. Delisi says, "Good evening, Gozzy." I've never been called Gozzy before. And chat. Liverpool needs to sign Shumeni, Yamal, Pedri, Mbappe, Cannavaro, R9, R7, CR7. Carlo, did you just send out an album, Albulula? Look, I liked Arbeloa. The center, yeah, he was a bit of a terrible signing, wasn't he? I want to win trophies, not the transfer window. I hear you, Steve. I do hear you on that one. Uh, what does what does make you sure that we will sack him in the summer? I don't see us winning the league or Champions League. I don't see us winning any silver this season. And I'm not saying that's the reason why someone should get sacked, but they will have to review the season. They will have to review it from the start. We've spent £450 million. We've brought in the profile players that Slot either once or would have agreed that they would have helped him evolve. Those players, in my opinion, were good signings, and those players should have helped us go to that next level. We've actually gone down a few levels. So because of that, that is not a success at all. And even if we finish in the top four, that's the bare minimum, right? But that is not good enough. You guys have said it in the chat as well. You won't be happy if we finish in the top four. So that's how the club will look at it. They'll look at all of that sort of combinations combined. And I don't believe that they will regard that as a success. There's no way FSG will regard as us spending almost £500 million and finishing top four. Whereas the season before, we spent 10 million on Chiesa and won the league title. So that's the way I'm looking at it from their point of view. They have to think from a business point of view, not with emotion. So because of that, I think they have to look at the bigger picture. Look, he did great in the first season, but the second season, we gave him all the tools, but he wasn't able to deliver. So then they have to look elsewhere. So that's how I'm envisioning it. And this is not just me saying Slot is terrible because I don't like his man management style. Like, I think they're going to look at it from that kind of point of view in terms of numbers and where we are. Because if we don't qualify for the top four, we're losing a lot of endorsements. We might know all of them in terms of who they are, but I'm sure the club will be losing out on money. And unfortunately, it's his job as the first team coach to train the players and get the results on the pitch. And if he hasn't done that, he's not good enough. So that's why I feel like there is a strong chance that he won't be Liverpool manager next season. So that's why I am labeling like that. But look, you might not like to hear this. If we somehow win the Champions League this season, he might stay, or he might be given another year. Because then on his resume, he'll say, "Look, I won the Premier League in my first season after replacing Jurgen Klopp, and in the second season, I finished in the top four, but I won the Champions League." So do you get what I'm saying? So you have to look at it in that way. You have to look at it in terms of what have you achieved in that season and how have you done from in comparison to prior to that season. That's how they review it from a business point of view. So let's see. But I'll say I don't even want a lot of trophies. I want a manager that loves the team with a special bond to everyone. I hear that, but I still want trophies. Probably no offense. I need trophies because um it's all good and well having that bond with the fans and the city and the club. But this is a sport. We need to be winning trophies. So for me, trophies is just as important as that connection with the city and the fans as well. Walking on stage says, have you been on Team Coppish? Don Hussam or Born Red would help grow your channel. No, I've not been on those channels. I have collaborated with a couple of the guys on Coppish. I've collaborated with Callum on a different channel, and I've collaborated with Drifty on Jamie Phillips, big up to Jamie Phillips as well, on one of his channels. I did a panel show last season with them. Um, Born and Red, I've been in dialogue with them in recent months, so hopefully, we can get something lined up together. Maybe I'll try and get them on the show at some point as well. Don Hassam, no, I've not really had any engagement with him, so no. But that is something in the pipeline to try and get myself out there a little bit more, be a bit more open to collaborations and try and get as many, faces and views onto the channel. But the plan is to try and collaborate with a lot more content creators. So that's something everyone has New Year resolutions, right? So for me, is to try and get more Liverpool content creators on the show uh, from January onwards. So that's my plan. So hopefully you'll see some familiar faces, and yeah, I'm sure we'll have some interesting debates and shows and great content coming your way later this season. Lucy says at least Osena can retire saying he scored at Old Trafford. Yeah, that is a fair point, to be fair. That is a fair point. Bro, we ain't winning the Champions League with this squad and these tacticals. I know we're not. That's what I'm saying. That I feel like it would take a miracle for Slot to stay in the job. And that miracle for me has to be a Champions League win. Premier League, I don't see it. I know there's been fans. Look, you guys will watch different channels more than me. But there are fans that still believe we can go and win the title. I'm not quite there yet. If you guys are, feel free to let me know. Um, but I don't see it. I'm not feeling that because when you're winning league titles or when you're winning trophies, you're supposed to be better than the rest. We are not better than the rest. We are just about better than some teams around us. So I don't see it that way, and I don't see us drastically playing champagne football all over again. I don't see it that way. So that's why I said if we win the Champions League, then he gets another year because that is that it's I don't want to say it's not really it's very unlikely that that happens right now based on where we are and based on the competition that we have in the competition as well. But no, I don't think we will. But look, if he wants to do it, look, he's got a case. Premier League winner, Champions League winner, 2 years. You can't sack him after that. Whether we like that or not, you actually can't sack him. So just remember that. This is I'm supposed to be the delusion one here. Now you can keep that title. But just saying it how it is. If he wins the Champions League somehow, because in 2005, no one probably thought we would win the Champions League, and we did it. So if we somehow win it, unfortunately, we're gonna have to stick around with Arne Slot a little bit longer. Uh, Bo says, no, no, no. All that comes before trophies. Yeah, I hear you, but I don't know. I feel like after such a great because last year, I'm sure many of us would have known much about Slot, but we welcomed him with open arms. We were patient with him, and we didn't play the best brand of football. I'll admit that, but we won the title. So who are we to complain, right? And we can't say we weren't, with the coach. We were with the coach. We were singing Arne Slot songs throughout the season, right? Because I know for a fact we were all singing Arne Slot songs in the parade. So yeah, we were definitely, with the coach in terms of what he achieved in the first season. But maybe we're seeing his true colors right now, and we're not liking it. So for me, of course, that connection with the club and the fans and the city and the coach, it plays a big role. But I feel like that comes with success on the pitch, i.e., winning trophies, winning games. So that's how I'm looking at it going forward. Bo says 10th place and we'll sign a new contract. Oh, come on, come on. No, no. He's not getting a new contract. If he gets a new contract, I will probably crash out live on stream, honestly. There's no way he deserves a contract. Deserves a new contract for being mediocre. No, no, not at my club. That is not acceptable. Delu Steve says difference is there ain't no Stevie G level player on the squad. Yeah. Well, did you not know we've got the Hungarian Gerard in our squad? Come on now. We've still got someone like that in our team. Delu Steve says your client verse is too timid to be a leader. So he said, oh no, but not every player has to be a leader. I'd rather he just be the magician on the pitch. So, I'd rather take works as a magician rather than a leader, in my opinion. So he's showing that. Got the first assist the other day. My client, he's on the right trajectory. He'll get there. He'll show you his true colors uh, in due course. Yeah. And the final topic today is Arne Slot's press conference. So I'm not sure if everyone's seen it, but what I will do, I will present the comments that really stuck with me, and we can talk about it in a bit more detail as well. Firstly, I forgot the press conference was today because normally it's done on a Friday, but with Friday being Boxing Day, and I guess bank holiday as well, that's what they've given Slot the day off for that one. So they did it earlier today. So of course, questions were asked about certain players. So I'll go into the some of the talking points in my eyes. So the first one, of course, was about Isak. Uh, and Slot confirmed that look, it's going to be a long injury, but he said for a couple of months. So that I know it shouldn't give me a lot of confidence, but that feels like okay, that's not as bad as first pick because I was thinking maybe he's out for about 3, 4 months. But if it's only 2 months, I can live with that. That means he'll be returning end of February, early March. So that's not a bad time. That's the time where the Champions League next phase kicks in, and we're in that next phase of playing a lot of games in a short period of time. So it could be a welcome addition at the time. So it's not like he's ruled out for the season, because mentally I said to myself, we have to think of it like that. But if Slaughter said 2 months only, that's not bad. I don't know if that's a poor choice of words, because some people say couple and basically mean like a few months. I hope that's not the case. If it is, yeah, please don't do that again. In terms of team news, he mentioned that Bradley's 50-50. He didn't train today, but could train tomorrow. And Gakpo is the same, 50-50 in regards to being featured against Wolves. But Joe Gomez and Wataru Endo are not available. And one thing that intrigued me a little bit was in regards to a report talking about Kirkes, where Kirkes said that he's developing a nice relationship with Verts, and that was definitely a slide dig at Gakpo because Gakpo and Kirkes are definitely not on talking terms or even looking at each other because Gakpo clearly doesn't see him on the pitch at all. Um, and then start trying to back his boy there in Gakpo by saying that every player who plays constantly will, connect better. And he mentioned Gakpo in that sentence as well. But at this point, I wasn't very pleased about it. This was in regards to Rio and Gamora. And he said that for his age, he believes that he has received more minutes or has played more minutes among 17-year-olds in the Premier League. Uh, this really shows that he has been given some playing time, and also it shows his exceptional talent, uh, but also about his potential because a 17-year-old shouldn't be playing for the first team right now. It's quite rare, he said, and he also said that at the same time it reveals something about the availability of players in that position. So rather than boost the player, I feel like he was trying to boost him by saying that, oh, no other 17-year-old has played minutes like you have. But I barely remember Rio featuring for us this season, so I don't know what he's talking about, number one. But at the end, he just had to just kick him with the low blow, then say, oh, it's because we don't have players available in his position. You've got to boost the player. Come on now. It's just ridiculous. So when you speak about young players, you never speak so honestly about them. You've got to uplift them so much where they're like, you know what, this coach really trusts and believes in me. I'm gonna give him my all in training, and then hopefully, when I get my chance, I'm going to deliver. Like you've got to use psychology here. I can't be so much of a donor and not realize that. And I feel like Slot just feel like I feel like when he talks, he's just very simple in terms of the way he says things, but doesn't think like, am I going to get a reaction out of this player in a positive way? He never does that. So I find that really annoying in regards to Slot. And he's just literally an open book. He really is. And then speaking about not uplifting your players, technically he's a player that plays for another team, but he's still on our books, and that is Harvey Elliott. Someone asked him about his situation. He said no. And he said very abruptly as well that Harvey Elliott is an Aston Villa player. He's supposed to go there for the season. So the best person to ask is Una Emery. Um, and they're doing very well, by the way. So that was just like throw the poor guy under the bus. Because yes, Villa are doing well, but it's not because of Harvey Elliott. He barely plays for them. So you know, clearly that clearly shows me that Elliott is not even in Slot's thinking right now at all. That move in his head was a permanent transfer. It wasn't a loan move because there was always like at the time I wasn't sure if it was a loan move or permanent. Different sources were suggesting different things, but then we realized that it was a loan with an obligation to buy. So for Slot, he's not a Liverpool player. So that's why he's probably thinking, why are you asking about Elliot? Like, I haven't heard that he's coming back in January. So what are you saying that he's coming back? I've never heard anything about that. So yeah, he just literally said what he thought in his head. And then he spoke about Ekatike, a player that's been in great form. 3 goals in 2 games, and someone's like, what have you made of his progress this season? And his first sentence was, Ekatike still needs to get stronger. Why would you say that out loud? That's the first feedback you've given him. And then he tried to clear it up. He's like, oh, but he's already become stronger. He can score. He's got great footwear. He's got great dribbling skills. He has so much in his locker. He tried to sugarcoat it, but the real response came out in his opening line. So for me, this coach, yeah, he just doesn't know how to speak, in my opinion. Like, there's times when you're in a professional environment, you've got to play the game. You can't be so transparent. He doesn't know how to play the game at all. And then he added to say that he's adjusted to the Premier League now. The biggest thing is how he can become physically outstanding. That's what he's really working hard on right now. So don't get me wrong, I understand, that Ekitike does need to be a bit more stronger. Like, he's not exactly a weakling on the pitch. Like, he can still handle himself. It's just that he needs to get accustomed to being pushed around from defenders and midfielders, where he's stationed on the pitch. So for me, that's of course every player has areas of their game that they need to improve or get better, or you know try and be a bit more aware of in order to get the best out of them on the pitch. But this guy just seems to open his mouth without really thinking about what he's about to say. So yeah, those were some of the comments that uh, stuck to my mind in terms of the press conference. Uh, And yeah, that's it for today. Let me just go through some of the comments and then we'll close the show. Um, Delucio said Gakpo is too busy starting new media business off the pitch. Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, making moves. All right. Man wants to be a media mogul and agent. All right, I didn't even know he was doing that. Steve says that's not just Slot though. That's all Dutch managers. You are right. To be fair, from Coleman to Hullet are all harsh and blunt with the media. Yeah, I remember Hullet a bit more. Hullet was harsh. um, he did not have a good relationship with Shearer as well, didn't he? Yeah. So it probably is a Dutch thing, but then maybe we should learn a lesson not to go Dutch again when it comes to managerial appointments. But we'll see if Liverpool learn that lesson. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Uh, Thank you to let's go from the top to Bol. Big up to Bol as always. Big up to Daz. Big up to Ozan. Big up to who else do we have? Big up to You'll Never Walk Alone 73. Big up to Abdul and big up to Delulu Steve. Appreciate your engagement as always, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, nothing scheduled for tomorrow. But if there's any transfer news, I might do an impromptu show like I did today. And then after that, uh, I don't think I'll be available for Christmas Day. I've got family over, and I'm sure everyone else has as well. I don't celebrate Christmas, but we use this time to gather family around and just have a good meal in my household. So yeah, that's what we'll probably be doing. But look, if there's breaking news, if Barcola has been linked, then you'll be seeing me eating my food and going live as well because that's something I have to talk about. But in terms of the schedule, we do have a show lined up for Boxing Day. We'll do the match preview of Liverpool. Is that home or away? I think it's at home, isn't it? Let's double check. I always forget. So yes, at home. So Liverpool versus Wolves, and then on Saturday we'll do the watch along. The kickoff is 3 p.m. UK time, so I'll be live just before 3 p.m. to go through the lineups together, and then we can watch the game. Hopefully, it's not a ball fest this time, and then we can do a match reaction later that evening, where you can let me know your thoughts in the comments, or you can click on the link and come on the show and have your say. Be as vocal as you need to be, but hopefully it's a good day and we're not, you know, drawing or losing against a team that hasn't even won a single game all season. So hopefully it's a good performance and a bit of a thrashing. If I'm being honest with you, I need to see at least 3-4 goals. If I'm being honest with you guys, if I'm seeing 1-0, I'll be very very disappointed. To be fair, um, just got a few more comments here before we close the show. Deuce, they've got to finish this year strong. Have to battle Wolves 100%. We've got to batter them. A draw would be like a defeat for me, honestly. That's a what? When's your Wolves preview, Aussie? Could you do it tomorrow as well at home? I think I could do it tomorrow actually. I could do. I thought maybe let's wait until Friday just in case there's any further developments. But yeah, we could do it tomorrow. I don't see that being an issue. It's just that it feels like it's a bit earlier to do it on Wednesday when we've got a Saturday kickoff. Or I might do on Friday. If there's no transfer news, then I might do it. But yeah, best thing to do, hit that notification bell, so you know exactly what time I do a show, and you'll know the topic as well in terms of the agenda on my show as well. Double D, we got Double D as always. He says Oz had to establish that he doesn't celebrate Christmas. Or they may have given you the salad treatment, bro. Yeah, trust me. No, too. But when you live here, you know, you do like get involved in terms of like the festivities. Of course, I'm not going to no church because I'm not a Christian, but yeah, I'm trying to like stay away from that kind of attention there. I'll let to be fair, Mo Salah won't be doing it this year. He's in AFCON, so he'll be spared this time round. Oz has a Christmas tree in it. Don't lie, Oz. No, I don't have a Christmas tree. That's hilarious. That says need to beat Wolves on Saturday. No, I don't want to just. I want to thrash them. It needs to be like a 5-0 victory. If it's not 5-0, I'm not happy. Because this is a team that hasn't won a single. They've lost 15 times. Is it 15? Let me not exaggerate. I feel like they've lost. They have lost 15 times. We're playing 17 games. Uh, yeah, they've drawn twice and they've lost 15 times. Minus 28, and they've scored 37 goals. Um, have they scored 37 goals? Oh, that can't be right. No, sorry. I was reading the wrong stat there. They've scored 9 goals and they've conceded 37. Okay, that makes more sense. So they're minus 28. Liverpool have scored 28 and have conceded 25. So it's, yeah, we're not doing that great either. But yeah, there's no way we don't look. They've lost 5 on the bounce. Yeah, there is no way we don't win that game. If not, I can't speak. Sack Slot straight away. We couldn't lose to the bottom team in the Premier League. That is not correct, is it? Uh, Steve said, "Oh, it's happening to the 3 misses." That's hilarious. You know what? Plus, if he says, "I know, and for paper is full of shit," but did Ornstein tweet about Barcola? Not about Barcola. That's why I spoke about Barcola because we were linked with him about a week ago. But in terms of today, no, we haven't been linked with him today as such. The breaking news was, of course, around Semenyo being City bound and pretty much left Liverpool out of the waters because we weren't even spoken about. They mentioned Chelsea and Spurs out of the race, and they said that he preferred City over United. So Arsenal weren't even in the conversation. Um, so then you feel like was it all paper talk in the end? I don't know, or were we just monitoring as we always do, which sounds more like Liverpool, doesn't it? So no, in terms of Barcola, I just thought it would be a discussional point because I feel like that is someone that we've been linked with heavily, especially last summer. We were very hot on trying to sign him, but that move never materialized. I think more so because PSG didn't want to sell. But in terms of Anfield paper, sorry, um, you've always got to take a pinch of salt in terms of their content because I don't know how real this source. I feel like a lot of this stuff could be a little bit fabricated as well. Um, so yeah, always take it with a pinch of salt, especially social media. You know how it goes. Um, Steve says their last win was in August. Flipping out, yeah. Let's not gift them. Let's not give them a a late Christmas present because of course it'll be on Saturday by then. I really hope we don't do that. Volcon says they're just lying again. Yeah, I I think I can't remember now. Do you know what? Might even have a look. I feel like there was an account that said um that we were in advanced talks. So if that is Anfield paper, then yeah, I don't think it's true. We can't miss out on player then all of a sudden be advanced talks with a team like that. So let me quickly check if it is Anfield papers. Let's have a look. So I think it might have been the site that I saw earlier today. If it's still there, no, I don't. They might have deleted it. To be fair, maybe they got uh, some negative comments, but no. I don't think we're in talks with him. I think there has possibly been some dialogue, but I don't think we're in talks right now. So we'll see what happens if there is any truth to us trying to sign Barcola in January. Steve said I'll be fuming if we lose to Spurs. Me too. I think I would actually lose the plot. I really would. Steve saying good night. Well, good morning. Well, for me, it's good night. But yeah, big up yourself. Thank you for tuning in. And that's a great way to close the show. So thank you again, guys. Take care. Stay safe. And I hope to speak to you all tomorrow, hopefully. Goodbye.